I was born in a family of six, that is, 2 boys and 4 girls. My mother single-handedly did menial jobs for us to eat. People pitied us, but we were glad that we were respectably poor. Even when poor people called us poor, we did not mind. I did not know that I had a talent for storytelling until I came to the big city. I never saw a chance in a million that I would leave the village for the bright lights of the city. The city was a bridge too far. Let me tell you that during those formative days, I feared girls. I never came close to them lest they fed me poison. Mama always warned me against them by saying, "Sudi, whoever drinks from her cup drinks with the devil." I do not know about that, I smile. You see, Mama was a strict disciplinarian, she who spent most of her time reading the Bible upside down like a lizard. And just like a lizard, she nodded her dumb head vigorously in agreement. I think she also saw life upside down the way a lizard scales the wall up and down. Then I got this well-paying job in a soft drink company in the city, and my world changed with rainbow colors. Aha! Money changed my life. Let me tell you, man, I wined, dined, and chased women as if the world was coming to an end. I remember the day before I left the village for the dazzling city lights. Mama took me aside for a pep talk. She never failed to tell me the tall tales of bad girls in the city. As a child, I used to nod my head vigorously because she could easily snatch my ears and kick my bum when I dozed off. Mama was unschooled, cruel, and paranoid. I believe this was because of reading the Bible without a pastor to guide her. She had this grim, myopic look towards things of the world. She believed strongly in the pie in the sky story. To her, this world was not our home. Our home was in heaven. This was something I thought laughable because I knew of no other home apart from our poor grass-thatched hut made of sod. "Sudi, my son," she said morosely, "tomorrow you'll be going to the city. Many boys and girls have gone there before you and got lost. I don't want you to follow their bad footsteps. While there, avoid bad company of drunkards and rootless girls. You shall never allow alcohol to touch your lips. Many families have been broken up by it. People have lost their dignity by urinating in their trousers. Others have lost their lives because of the devil drink. I'm now old and I don't have much time left in this world. I want to rest my tired bones. Now that you have got a good job, I need your support. Matolo, your brother, needs school fees. Don't forget him." Mama was almost crying, her face furrowed by the whip of unmerciful poverty. Years of toiling under the scorching sun showed on her gnarled fingers and mousy voice. She had suffered so that her children could eat a square meal at least once a day. In those days, breakfast and lunch were unheard of to us. They were luxuries. I felt hot tears sting my eyes just by looking at the misery surrounding our pathetic home. This was a home without a fence, a home that stray mangy dogs came sniffing, lifting their hind legs and urinating on the mud wall, leaving their scent for others to follow at night. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, when sleep was sweetest, one could hear a loud bang at the door with a bitch howling for mercy, followed by running feet in the compound and their biting and howling to get a go at her. That was the sorry state of what I called home. It was not a home but a concentration camp with Mama as Adolf Hitler. I dabbed my eyes and said, "Mama, forever your wise counsel will be my guidepost. We've led a miserable life since my father departed to be with God. I won't forget the difficulties you and Father went through to pay my school fees. I can't forget the nights we slept on an empty stomach. I can't forget the insults hurled at us by diabolical neighbors because of our poverty. I'll make sure you live comfortably now that I've got a good job as a human resource person in a big company in the city." At that time of moral lesson, we sat in front of our empty granary, a granary that even rats had fled because of famine. It was a sore sight, bent backward and almost falling down. Just then, Matolo came running after 2 mangy goats. They jumped into the sky as if seeing demons and yelled. After locking them in the mud-walled shed that was nearly collapsing, he came and sat beside Mama, smiling at me with dirty teeth. Matolo was 12 years old and hardened by biting hunger and the hot sun. He wore a torn red t-shirt that had not seen water for months. His skin was rough and tough like that of a monitor lizard, and a cow piss smell hung around him like a garbage truck. His face was ash white, as if he had swum in dust the whole day. He was a sore sight, but he was my only brother, our last born. I really loved Matolo because it took years before he came to this world. Before then, I was the only boy in a family full of girls, and I wore their dresses and panties. Everybody looked like everybody else in our humble family of girls. My sisters had been married off, and the affairs of the family now rested squarely on our shoulders. He was more than a brother to me. He was my bosom friend, precisely. Matolo? I said, smiling. Yes, my brother, he said proudly. Tomorrow I'll be going to the city, I said softly. I want you to take good care of Mama and listen to everything she says. I'll do so, he smiled, looking at her proudly. I know it has been difficult for us in the past, but now the suffering is over. I've got a good job in the city, I smiled at him. That's good, my brother. I'm happy for you, he said, smiling despite his hunger. From time to time, I'll come back home to see you people, and I'll make sure that I send money at the end of every month. I know that life has been so difficult for us, but things will be well with us now, I said happily. I sounded like a teacher wearing a striped blue tie and a black coat talking to a dumb class. Matolo's ash-white face broke into a smile as I concluded my speech. He was like a dumb boy in class waiting for the lunchtime bell to ring so he could run home to drink porridge for lunch. Mama looked at me as if I had won a lottery. She had a lot of trust in me to share the loot. Why not? She had read the Bible to me daily, and her prayers had paid off because I had finally clinched a good job. This job had been posted on the internet, and I got it without bribing anybody. This in itself was a miracle, for there were thousands of applicants. I went to say goodbye to my primary school teacher who had taught me English. He always had faith that I would succeed in life because I spouted English from my mouth like a man from London. I was a hit with the girls because I was smart, clean, and handsome, despite our biting poverty. Sudi, you're a lucky man. Many graduates have taken 10 years or more without jobs. During lunchtime, you'll see them in Javanji Garden eating air burgers and cursing their ancestors. Breakfast and lunch for them don't exist in their vocabulary, said Ken, smiling. What a pity, I exclaimed. Such is the misery of job seekers in the city of guts and blood. Even your own bloodline brother will close the door in your face if you go begging for a morsel of food. You're very lucky, he said. Teacher, I'll come back frequently to update you on my life in the city, I smiled. Please do so. I wish you good luck. Remember to come back home and help your family and the entire village, he said. I'll do so. Stay well, teacher. And we shook hands in farewell. That was my good teacher. He always rewarded me when I scored highly in English composition, poetry, and public speaking. Suffice it to say, I was very creative in class, with a powerful imagination to boot. I swaggered around looking for my enemies so I could laugh in their faces. But instead of meeting any enemies, I met cows grazing lazily in a field next to the school, and I waved at them happily. May you live to produce millions of liters of milk and feed the nation, I said cheerfully. The next day, I was set to join the builders of our great nation. Matolo was in tears. No, Matolo, don't cry. I'll be back soon. I'll miss you, Sudi. It's true, he cried. Don't worry. All will be well with you. Bye. Don't forget to come back home soon. And he wiped the tears from his eyes. Bye, Matolo. I'll see you soon at the end of the month. This was going to be my maiden visit to the city. I had been told by my good teacher what to expect in a hostile city, and I was psychologically prepared for the hard times ahead. I had the tough hide of a hippo, hardened by years of being a cowboy in the village. Mama had given me survival money after selling one of our mangy goats. This was a he-goat that Matolo was pained to part with. He climbed she-goats with song and vigor. He could fill a goat shed within a month. Now he was left with only one she-goat. I assured him that I would replace it with a fat one from Dubai, and he smiled broadly. Now, with money in my pocket, my self-confidence was boosted no end. I told myself, I am a survivor, and therefore, the concrete jungle did not scare me. I could survive even in the cold North Pole as an Eskimo living in an igloo beside a dog in a cart, I thought. But let me pause and say, I was wrong. There were things my good teacher had failed to warn me about in the city, and what Mama taught me in moral class was all hot air. What happened in Old Jerusalem was totally different from present-day Nairobi City. This was a city of sin. I had seen boastful city dwellers who came back to the village during Christmas holidays. They never gave us the true picture of life in the city. They spoke about the Kenyatta International Conference Center and life in Karen, the bedroom of the rich. Many of them lived in the slums, yet they talked big, boasting of affluence. One could think they lived in Runda. Most of them were motorcycle riders, but talked as if they worked at the Central Bank of Kenya. As a villager, I thought the city was all about glittering lights, tall buildings, and beautiful, light-skinned girls. Oh my God, there are people who live and work in Dandora dump site with rats and mongrels as their neighbors. These rats can sleep with you, eat with you, and laugh at your squalor. They are so big that even cats fear them. I never knew that rats could be that smart, and when you live in the dump site, you become harsher and smarter than them. There is no mercy for your poor neighbor. A walk in the night and you meet the real owners of the city. They do not fear anybody. It is either your wallet or your life. I saw bad things with my own eyes that I never imagined existed. Truly, this was the city of blood and guts. My journey to the city started without a hitch. I left Matolo in tears, though. On a classic Nairobi-bound bus, I chose a seat by the window. I wanted to see every town I had read about in geography books: Kericho, Nakuru, Naivasha, and Limuru. Politely, I noticed that the bus was full of women. They were going to look for work as house helps, to wash clothes, or to join their long-lost husbands in the city. The sad-looking ones, I guessed, were those who missed their conjugal rights. And I laughed quietly at the thought I was lucky that my job was cut out for a top-flight life. Smugly, I looked at the others and pitied them. In spite of Mama's warnings about girls, I found myself stealing glances at them. They were slim, beautiful, and wore jeans that hugged their hips. Then I saw her, a tall, slim, light-skinned girl in white trousers and a white t-shirt dragging a black suitcase. My heart skipped a beat. She was young and breathtakingly beautiful. When she noticed the empty seat next to me, she proudly walked toward it. Wow, wow, wow. I thought I was dead and buried. "This is my seat," she said sweetly, showing me her bus ticket. And just then, I heard Mama whispering in my ear, "Say no, Sudi! She's carrying sweet poison! Tell her to get lost!" "Shut up, Mama," I whispered back, smiling. "Please, have a seat. It's yours." "No problem," I beamed at the girl, and Mama wept. This walking angel placed her suitcase in the luggage rack, then promptly sat down, her smart butt touching the seat. Her knees brushed mine for a second, and she smiled. I nearly passed to the next world. This girl looked like she'd stepped straight from a fashion magazine, a real-life supermodel. She smiled at me, a small, mysterious smile borrowed from Mona Lisa, and my head spun. I had never seen such a smile in the village. Like a child licking a lollipop, I smiled back. Soon, the bus roared toward a hero, its tires eating the tarmac. It was a new Scania model that overtook Matatus as if they were handcarts. I made faces at a bored driver in a saloon car as we passed him, and clapped quietly when we overtook another one with his wife. What a bright summer morning it was. I stole another glance at the girl beside me. She was reading a thick novel titled Danielle Steele. She was clearly a romantic girl. Who was she anyway? Queen Sheba? I didn't know. Like two primary school kids left alone in class, we soon started chatting. The novel had brought us together, as I asked her what it was all about. You may want to know. I'm a great fan of English literature. Since childhood, I had vowed that one day I would become a writer, a blockbuster author, perhaps even a filmmaker, earning millions of dollars. I dreamed of being a celebrity, driving a good car, dining in fancy places, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry. But little did I know that writing is a lonely, painful job. Her name was Judy, and she was a talker. I basked in her eloquence. Her sweet voice was like music to my ears, just like listening to my high school history teacher. She was very beautiful, and every boy in class would have wanted to ask her for a date. In school, naughty boys could even ask for permission to go to the loo just to pass near her and maybe brush against her by accident. Yours truly was one of them. I had been used to talking to crude girls in the village who smelled of unwashed armpits. They were loud, laughed wildly, ululated while lifting one leg in the air, and danced like possessed souls. I always gritted my teeth when the ugly ones turned up their noses as if breathing the ozone layer, demanding attention. They would block my way, demanding attention, and then snort, "Boy, I want you." And when I told them I didn't want them because I feared my mother and the Holy Bible, they laughed mockingly. "I was just joking. You're an ugly, stupid boy," they would sneer, walking away while swinging their skirts with exaggerated pride. They laughed loudly, the kind of laughter that could wake up sleeping birds in the trees. They were crude girls, and I always gave them a wide berth. I could sense their noise and perfume long before they arrived. I was young and full of innocence, but the older girls in class often found me an easy target for teasing. The most notorious of them all was Akumu, tall, outspoken, and playful in an annoying way. She was much older than the rest of us, and often treated the classroom like her playground. Her deep laughter echoed across the room whenever she thought of a mischief. Once, I shared a desk with her at the back of the class. She liked joking too much, especially when the teacher's back was turned. One day, she made a silly remark that caught the teacher's attention. "Yes? What did you say?" "Say it again," the teacher demanded. Akumu quickly lowered her head and pretended to write, while hiding a mischievous smile. The whole class laughed quietly. There was also a time I was quietly reading a storybook during break, alone in the classroom. Suddenly, a few mischievous classmates sneaked up behind me, covered my eyes, and tried to scare me. I kicked the chair, broke free, and ran outside clutching my book, while they laughed loudly. Among them was, of course, Akumu, always leading in such childish pranks. From that day, I avoided sitting near her. One day, I gathered enough courage to tell Mama about Akumu and her constant teasing in class. It was a big mistake. The next morning, Mama stormed to Akumu's home, dragging me along. She shouted, "Anybody at home? I want to talk to Akumu." Akumu's mother, a humble woman, came out. "Akumu has gone to fetch water from the river. Is something wrong?" "Tell your daughter to stop disturbing my son," Mama thundered. "She keeps bothering him at school." "Oh no, that's bad," said Akumu's mother softly. "Tell her to look for boys her own age to marry her. Let her leave my son alone," Mama shouted, pointing at me for everyone in the village to hear. Later, Mama walked home talking to herself, her anger still burning. On the way, a woman stopped us and asked, "What's wrong with Sudi?" Mama sighed. "This boy will kill me one day with girls. Every day it's girls, girls, girls." The woman laughed. "Maybe he got that from you." Mama scowled. "No, like father, like son." Mama's words echoed in my head for a long time, though I didn't quite understand what she meant by like father, like son. My father had died when I was still young, so I hardly remembered his ways. All I knew was that Mama always mentioned him when talking about mistakes I supposedly inherited. "You laugh like your father," she would say, or, "You have your father's stubbornness." I grew up believing I was a carbon copy of a man I barely knew. Life moved on, and I soon finished primary school, then secondary. Through thick and thin, Mama held our family together with prayers and determination. She believed that education would be my redemption. True to her hopes, after years of struggle, I finally made it to college. It was there that my eyes opened to the world beyond our small village. I met people from all walks of life, dreamers, hustlers, thinkers, and heartbreakers. City life was different from anything I'd ever imagined. Even though I was still cautious around girls, I couldn't deny that some of them fascinated me. They spoke confidently, walked with purpose, and dressed like movie stars. I remember thinking that if Mama saw them, she would start a prayer crusade on the spot. Yet despite my fear, curiosity tugged at me. There was something about city girls, their polished accents, soft voices, and mysterious smiles, that drew me in like a moth to light. I had sworn to myself that I would never let a girl distract me from my goals, But fate seemed to have other plans. It started with harmless conversations at the college canteen, then study groups, and later long walks after class. There was one girl in particular, Leah. She wasn't the most beautiful, but she had an aura of calmness that made you want to keep talking to her. She laughed easily, listened intently, and had eyes that seemed to understand everything you said. Leah became my first real friend in college. She helped me settle into city life, from finding cheap food spots to navigating the noisy matatus. She had a contagious confidence that made her stand out. "Sudi," she would say, "the city doesn't owe you anything. You have to earn your space here." Those words stuck with me. But just as I was learning the ropes, reality hit hard. Rent, transport, and meals drained my pocket fast. The city was not as glamorous as I'd imagined. There were days I went without supper, and nights when mosquitoes were my only companions. Still, I kept going, driven by Mama's prayers and my dream to change our family's story. Leah noticed my struggle and would often share her lunch with me, pretending she wasn't hungry. I always thanked her, embarrassed yet grateful. She'd smile and say, "We're all trying to survive, Sudi. One day, it'll be your turn to help someone else." Leah and I became close friends. We shared dreams of a better future. She wanted to be a journalist, and I wanted to be a great writer. We spent evenings talking about books, music, and life. Sometimes she'd tease me about my village stories. "Sudi," she'd laugh, "you talk like those grandmothers who tell folk tales around the fire." "I'm serious," I'd defend myself. "Stories are what keep memories alive." "Then write them," she'd say. "Don't just tell them." That advice planted a seed in me. I began writing short stories in a small notebook. Some were funny, others sad, but they all carried pieces of my life. Mama's scolding, Matolo's laughter, the goats, and even the dusty roads of our village. Leah read every word, correcting my grammar and cheering me on. But as our friendship deepened, I started feeling something I couldn't explain. I would find myself thinking about her even during class. When she smiled at someone else, I'd feel an unfamiliar sting in my chest. I didn't know if it was love or foolishness. I remembered Mama's warning echoing in my head. "Girls are sweet poison, Sudi." So I kept my distance, afraid of what might happen if I let my heart lead. Leah noticed the change, and one evening asked, "Sudi, why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not," I said quickly. She looked at me quietly, sighed, and smiled. "You're a terrible liar." Her words lingered in my mind for days. I didn't know what to say or how to act around her anymore. Every time she smiled, my heart raced. Every time she walked away, something inside me sank. I was trapped between fear and desire, between Mama's strict voice and the warmth that Leah brought into my life. One weekend, Leah invited me to her cousin's birthday party. I hesitated at first. I wasn't used to such gatherings. "Come on," she insisted. "It's just a small get-together. You need to loosen up sometimes." I finally agreed. The party was in a modest apartment in Umoja. Music filled the air, and people laughed freely. Leah looked stunning in a blue dress that made her glow under the soft lights. I stood there, speechless for a moment. When she noticed me, she smiled and said, "You see, city life isn't that bad." We danced, talked, and for the first time, I forgot my worries. That night, I realized how much she meant to me. On my way home, I kept hearing her laughter in my head. It was like a song that refused to fade, but life, as always, had other plans. A few weeks later, Leah told me she had been offered an internship in Mombasa. "I'll only be gone for 3 months," she said. I tried to smile, but my heart ached. "That's great news," I managed to say. She touched my arm gently. "Promise me you'll keep writing." When Leah left for Mombasa, the city suddenly felt colder. The streets seemed louder, the matatus more chaotic, and my room emptier than ever. I didn't realize how much her presence had softened the rough edges of city life until she was gone. She used to check on me every day, reminding me to eat, to write, to keep going. Now, I had only her last words echoing in my head. "Promise me you'll keep writing." I kept that promise. Every evening after classes, I sat by my small window and scribbled stories in my notebook. Stories about home, about struggles, about dreams, and sometimes about a girl with a warm smile and a blue dress. Writing became my escape, my therapy, and my companion Leah and I kept in touch through calls and messages, but it wasn't the same. Some nights the network was terrible. Other nights she was too tired from work, I understood. Life was happening to both of us. Still, I missed her. While she was away, my college life grew tougher. Fees were overdue, and I had to juggle part-time jobs, washing cars, doing simple data entry, even helping in a small cafe. The city taught me resilience the hard way. One evening, while serving tea at the cafe, a tall man in a neat suit entered. He sat down and asked, "Young man, do you know anyone who can work in human resources? Our company is expanding, and we need someone sharp." My heart skipped. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I swallowed hard and gathered the courage to speak. "Sir, I recently completed my diploma in human resource management. I'm actually looking for a job." He lifted his eyes and studied me carefully. "You?" "Yes, sir," I said, trying my best to sound confident. He nodded slowly. "Come to our office tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ask for Mr. Colonzo, bring your certificates." My heart thumped wildly. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." That night I barely slept. I ironed my shirt twice, polished my shoes until I could see my reflection, and arranged my documents 15 times. I imagined Mama ululating in pride and Matolo smiling with his dusty face. I prayed that this chance wouldn't slip away. The next morning, I arrived early. The building was tall and intimidating. I felt small, like a villager lost in a museum of glass and marble. But I reminded myself why I came. For Mama, for Matolo, for our broken granary at home. When I finally met Mr. Colonzo, he was surprisingly friendly. "You're the young man from the cafe?" "Yes, sir." He asked about my background, my studies, and my goals. I answered honestly, hoping my sincerity counted for something. After a long silence, he smiled. "You're humble, hardworking. We need people like you." My breath caught. "Report on Monday," he said. "You're hired." I wanted to scream, to dance, to jump, but I held myself together, only whispering, "Thank you, sir." My life was about to change forever. Walking out of that office felt like stepping into a new world. The sun seemed brighter, the breeze cooler, and even the noisy city sounded like music I wanted to run all the way back to my little room and shout the good news from the rooftop. For the first time since leaving the village, I felt like I had won a battle life had always tried to make me lose. That evening, I called Mama. She picked up breathlessly, as if she had been digging or chasing goats. "Sudi, are you well?" "Mama, I got a job." There was silence for a moment, then a loud wail. "Ahi, my enemies have failed. Jehovah has remembered me. My son has a job." I could hear neighbors rushing over, asking what had happened. Mama cried and shouted my name like I had become a minister in government. Even Matolo grabbed the phone. "Sudi, you will buy me a new goat, right?" I laughed. "I promised you, didn't I?" After the call, I sat on my bed and let the reality sink in. Monday would be the beginning of everything. I would finally earn a salary, send money home, and maybe even afford decent meals. I thought of Leah, too. How she had encouraged me, believed in me, pushed me to stay focused. I couldn't wait to tell her. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. No hunger, no fear, no worries, only hope. On Monday morning, dressed in my best clothes, I walked confidently into the company building. And that's when I met her, the daughter of my boss. She walked into the lobby like she owned the earth beneath her feet. Tall, elegant, and effortlessly stylish, she moved with a confidence I had only seen in movie stars. Her perfume drifted across the room before she even reached the reception desk. A soft, sweet scent that made the air feel warmer. I stood there, frozen, my appointment letter trembling slightly in my hand. She wore a cream blazer over a black dress that hugged her perfectly, and her long braids bounced gently with each step. Everyone at the reception straightened up when they saw her. Even the guard at the door suddenly stood like a soldier on parade. "Morning, sir," the receptionist greeted me politely, but her eyes drifted away, not to me, but to the goddess approaching us. When the girl finally reached the counter, she said in a smooth voice, "Has my father arrived?" Her father? I turned slightly, pretending not to eavesdrop, though my ears were wide open. "Yes, Miss Sheila," the receptionist replied quickly. "He's in his office. Should I inform him you're here?" "No need," she said confidently. "I'll walk in." She gave a faint smile, then brushed past me. For a second, her shoulder lightly touched mine, and a strange electricity ran through my body. I inhaled sharply, my heart thumping like a drum. She didn't look at me, not even once, but I felt something shift inside me, as if fate had quietly opened a new chapter of my life. Only later did I discover the shocking truth. Sheila was not only the daughter of my boss, she was also completely out of my league. I followed the receptionist down the long corridor toward the human resource department, but my mind was still stuck on the girl who had just brushed past me, Sheila. Even her name sounded like something expensive, the kind of name that belonged to someone who grew up eating ice cream on Sundays while I chased goats in the village. The HR office was bright and neatly arranged, with polished desks and employees typing as if their fingers were on fire. I was shown to a small desk near the window. "This will be your workstation," the receptionist said. "You're starting as an assistant HR clerk." I nodded gratefully. "Thank you." Minutes later, Mr. Colonzo walked in. "Ah, Sudi, welcome." "Thank you, sir." "We believe in hard work here," he said, patting my shoulder. "Be careful, be smart, and stay focused." I assured him I would give my best, but just as he was about to walk away, a soft voice floated into the office. "Dad, are you done?" I turned, and there she was again. Sheila standing in the doorway like a portrait come to life. She looked even more radiant up close. "Yes, Princess," Colonzo said warmly. "Give me a minute." Princess? My heart sank. That confirmed everything. She was the kind of girl who lived in mansions with fountains and dogs that ate better meals than some people. She glanced around the room and her eyes swept past me without stopping. To her, I was just another employee in a cheap shirt, invisible. But even as she walked out, something in my chest tightened. I told myself sternly, focus on the job. Don't be stupid, but fate, as always, had its own ideas. My first week at the company was a whirlwind of learning, adjusting, and pretending I wasn't constantly thinking about Sheila. I buried myself in files, employee records, leave forms, and endless data entry. The work was not difficult, but it was intense. Still, I loved it. Every day I showed up early, polished my shoes, and reminded myself that this job was my ticket out of poverty. But Sheila's presence made concentration a challenge. She moved through the office like a quiet storm, graceful, confident, and always dressed beautifully. Sometimes she would pass by the HR department on her way to her father's office, and every time she did, the air changed. Conversations paused, computers stopped clacking for a second. Even the most senior staff straightened their backs. As for me, I pretended not to notice her. But my heart beat like a drum when she walked past one day. As I was carrying a stack of files to the meeting room, I met her face to face in the hallway. I froze. She stopped too, only because I was blocking her way. "Excuse me," she said politely. Her voice was soft, but it sliced straight into my chest. I stepped aside so fast I almost dropped the files she walked past without another word. Her perfume lingered, making my head spin. After she was gone, I leaned against the wall and whispered to myself, "Sudi, you're in trouble." I knew very well that girls like Sheila lived in a world far above mine, a world of class, money, privilege, and comfort, a world I had only seen in magazines. But the more I tried to ignore her, the deeper she sank into my thoughts. And deep down, a quiet, dangerous question began forming in my heart. What if, just maybe, she wasn't as unreachable as she looked? Days turned into weeks, and I slowly became comfortable in my new role. My coworkers were friendly, and I quickly learned the ropes. I organized files, prepared attendance reports, updated staff records, and assisted during interviews. Somehow, I found myself becoming the go-to guy whenever someone needed help with printing, scanning, or navigating the HR system. But even as I grew into the job, Sheila remained the quiet storm stirring everything inside me. I tried to be logical. I told myself, "You're here to work, don't dream nonsense." Yet my heart always betrayed me. Whenever she entered the building, a strange energy ran through me, as if my whole body had been plugged into electricity one afternoon. While I was arranging documents in the meeting room, I heard footsteps approaching. The door opened, and there she was, standing gracefully with a file in her hand. For a moment, we both froze. "Oh, you're here," she said softly. "Yes, just arranging some files," I replied, trying to sound calm. My voice cracked slightly. "I'm looking for the procurement report. Dad said it was kept here." I immediately checked the labeled stacks and found it. "Here it is," I said, handing it to her. She reached out to take it, and for a brief second our fingers touched. A spark shot through me. She didn't pull her hand away immediately. She paused, just half a second, then took the file gently. "Thank you," she said, giving me the faintest smile. A real one. And then she walked out. That tiny smile felt like a sunrise inside me. I stood there holding my breath, my heart echoing one impossible thought. Maybe she had finally seen me. That evening, I left work with my mind replaying that small moment over and over again. Her smile, simple, soft, almost shy, had unsettled something deep inside me. I walked home slowly, barely noticing the noisy Matatus, the shouting hawkers, or the dusty wind. My thoughts were floating somewhere above Nairobi. When I reached my room, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at the wall as if the answers were written there. Why had she smiled like that? Why did she pause when our hands touched? Was it accidental? Or did she? I shook my head. "Stop dreaming, Sudi," I murmured aloud. "She's your boss's daughter. She breathes wealth. You breathe survival." But my heart refused to listen. The next day at work, I tried to behave normally, burying myself in paperwork. Still, each time I heard footsteps outside the HR office, I glanced up, hoping it was her. It never was. My chest tightened with disappointment every time. Around lunchtime, I stepped outside to buy chapati and beans from a kiosk nearby. As I returned, balancing my plate, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Hey, Sudi, right?" I turned and nearly dropped the food. Sheila stood there, sunglasses pushed up into her braids, smiling lightly. Yes, that's me," I stammered. "I just wanted to thank you properly for yesterday," she said. "Most people don't organize that meeting room well, but you did." I blinked, unsure what to say. Thank you, Miss Sheila." "You can just call me Sheila," she said casually. And with that, she walked ahead toward the building. I stood rooted to the ground, the chapati cooling in my hands. She had remembered my name. She wanted me to call her Sheila. For the first time, the impossible didn't feel so impossible anymore. The afternoon felt different after that short conversation with Sheila. I walked back into the office feeling like I was floating. My co-workers probably thought I had won a lottery. Even the HR computer, which usually behaved like it needed prayers, seemed faster that day. Everything felt lighter, brighter. But beneath all that excitement, a quiet worry crept in. What if I was reading too much into simple kindness? What if she was just being polite because I work for her father? These thoughts battled inside me, but the memory of her saying, "Just call me Sheila," kept melting them away. Later that week, something unexpected happened. I was in the HR office updating attendance forms when Mr. Colonzo walked in with Sheila beside him. "Team," he said. "My daughter will be helping in several departments as part of her internship program. She will rotate through finance, procurement, and also HR for a short period." My heart nearly burst out of my chest. She was going to work in HR, with us, with me. Sheila gave a small wave to everyone. "Looking forward to working with you all," she said politely. When her eyes passed over me, she gave a tiny nod, not big enough for others to notice, but enough for my heart to register it like an earthquake. Once the introductions ended, she walked around the office exploring desks and systems. I kept my head down, pretending to focus, but I could feel her presence like a warm shadow. Every click of her heels felt like it was tapping directly on my heartbeat. After a few minutes, she stopped beside my desk. "So, this is where you sit," she said softly. I looked up slowly, trying to look calm. "Yes, welcome to HR." She smiled slightly. "Mind showing me how things work around here?" My world tilted. She wanted me, to guide her. For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. Sheila, the boss's daughter, asking me to show her around? My throat went dry. I nodded quickly before my nerves betrayed me. "Of course. I can show you everything." She pulled a chair next to mine and sat down, her perfume drifting toward me again. I swallowed hard and opened the HR system on my computer. "This is where we manage employee files," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "Attendance, leave forms, performance reviews, all stored here." She leaned slightly closer to see the screen. My heart nearly stopped. I could feel the warmth of her shoulder near mine. Close, but not touching. "That's interesting," she said softly. "Dad always says HR holds the company together." I chuckled nervously. "Well, we try." She turned and looked at me directly, her eyes warm and curious. "You're good at this." I almost dropped the mouse. Thank you," I whispered. Her compliment stayed in my mind long after she moved to speak with another staff member. The rest of the department stole glances at her, and at me. I could see it in their eyes. Why is she talking so comfortably with the new guy? But I pretended not to notice. When Sheila left the room briefly, my colleague Pamela tapped my arm. "Sudi," she whispered, "be careful. That girl is the boss's pride. Don't get yourself fired over small excitement." "I'm not excited," I lied. Pamela raised her eyebrow. "Your ears are red. That's excitement." I looked down, embarrassed. She wasn't wrong. Later that day, as Sheila prepared to leave, she paused at the door, turned back, and said, "Thanks for helping me today." "Sudi." She said my name softly, gently, like it meant something, and just like that, she walked out, leaving my heart beating like a drum in the quiet office. The days that followed became strangely brighter. Sheila settled into her HR rotation, and though she didn't sit with me every day, we interacted often enough to keep my heart in a constant state of confusion. She asked questions, smiled genuinely, and sometimes even cracked small jokes that left me laughing long after she walked away. Each moment with her felt like a movie scene, the kind where the audience knows something is brewing, even if the characters are still pretending nothing is happening. But I tried my best to stay professional. I needed this job more than I needed her attention. One morning, as I walked into the office, I found Sheila already there, standing beside my desk. "Oh, there you are," she said. "I wanted to go through some reports, thought you could help before the day gets busy." "Of course," I replied, trying to sound casual. Inside, my heart was dancing rumba. We sat side by side going through the documents. Sometimes her hand would brush mine accidentally. Sometimes she leaned closer to point something out. Each small touch burned like electricity, and each smile she gave felt like a secret message. But then something unexpected happened. Around midday, a tall man in glasses and a sharp suit walked into the HR office. Sheila's face lit up the moment she saw him. "Mark!" she exclaimed, standing up quickly. He hugged her lightly. "Sheila, it's been a while." My heart dropped. Who was this? A friend? A colleague? Or something more? They chatted easily, laughing softly. I pretended to focus on my computer screen, but their voices reached me like slow poison. Pamela leaned toward me and whispered, That's Mark. Her childhood friend, or maybe her boyfriend. Hard to tell with rich kids. My stomach tightened. As they walked out together, Sheila glanced back briefly. At me, just one quick glance. But it was enough to confuse me even more. That glance Sheila gave me stayed in my mind longer than her conversation with Mark. It was brief, just a second. But her eyes carried something I couldn't understand. Was it concern, curiosity, or was it simply my foolish imagination running wild? After they left, I tried to pretend everything was normal, but inside I felt a slow heaviness settle in my chest. I typed a letter, filed documents, updated attendance, but my mind refused to focus. My thoughts kept wandering to Sheila, walking beside that well-dressed man, smiling in a way that made my stomach twist. Pamela noticed my silence. "Why are you frowning like you lost your salary?" she asked. "I'm fine," I lied again. She clicked her tongue. "Sudi, listen, don't drown in things that don't belong to you. If Sheila has a boyfriend, that's her level. Focus on your lane." Her words felt like pins in my skin, but I forced a smile. "I'm focused." She rolled her eyes. "If you say so." The rest of the day dragged slowly. Sheila returned later in the afternoon without Mark. She walked straight to my desk holding a file. "Could you help me input these details?" she asked. "Sure," I said, hoping my voice didn't betray me. She stood beside me as I worked. After a moment, she said softly, "You look tired today." I paused. "Do I?" She nodded. "Yes, you seem distant." My heart skipped. "Just a busy day," I said quickly. "Nothing serious." She studied my face for a second longer, then said, "Okay, but make sure you take care of yourself." Then she walked away. Her tone, her eyes. It didn't sound like she was talking to just any employee, but I didn't want to fool myself. Not when another man could walk into her life like he belonged there. That night, as I lay in bed, one truth sat restlessly in my mind. If I wasn't careful, my feelings for Sheila would swallow me whole. The following week brought an unexpected shift. Sheila seemed quieter, more thoughtful than usual. She still greeted me warmly and asked for help with HR tasks, but there was something different in her eyes, as if she was holding back questions she didn't know how to ask. Meanwhile, my own heart was a battlefield. Half of me wanted to distance myself, to protect my sanity. The other half, the foolish, hopeful half, wanted to believe that the small moments between us meant something. On Thursday afternoon, just as I was preparing some staff ID cards, Sheila approached my desk again. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. "Sure," I said, pushing aside the papers. She hesitated. That alone startled me. Sheila was always confident, always sure of her words. "I wanted to ask," she began softly, then paused, looking at the floor. "Yes?" I asked gently. She inhaled. "Are you okay? I feel like you've been avoiding me these past few days." My heart stopped. She had noticed I quickly shook my head. No, I'm not avoiding you." She narrowed her eyes slightly. "Sudi, don't lie. You've barely said 2 words to me this whole week." Her honesty disarmed me. I opened my mouth, closed it, then finally said, "I'm just trying to stay focused. I have a lot to learn here." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, if you say so." She turned to walk away, but then she stopped and looked back. "Oh, and by the way," she added lightly, "Mark isn't my boyfriend." My breath froze. "He's not?" She shook her head. "He's just a family friend." A tiny smile curved her lips. "I thought you should know." Then she walked out, leaving the air humming around me. Her words echoed through my mind the entire evening. "I thought you should know." That night, I barely slept. Sheila's words kept replaying in my mind like a song stuck on repeat. "Mark isn't my boyfriend. I thought you should know." Why would she think I should know? Why did she care whether I misunderstood? These questions twisted around my thoughts, making my heart jump between hope and confusion. The next day at work, I tried to act normal, even though my chest felt like it was carrying a small drum. Sheila walked into the HR office mid-morning, holding a coffee cup and a tablet. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on me briefly before she greeted everyone. "Morning, team," she said warmly. "Morning," we all replied. She took a seat at an empty desk across from mine. For the first hour, she typed quietly. She didn't look my way, didn't say a word, didn't ask for help. And yet, every part of me was painfully aware of her presence. Around lunchtime, she suddenly stood up and walked to my desk. "Going for lunch?" she asked casually. "I was thinking about it," I replied. She hesitated slightly, a rare sight, then asked, "Would you like to join me? I want to try the new restaurant across the road, but I don't feel like going alone." My heart did a somersault. "Yes. I mean, sure. I can join you." Pamela, sitting nearby, shot me a wide-eyed look that screamed, "Be careful!" Sheila didn't seem to notice. She simply smiled and said, "Great, let's go." We walked out of the office together, side by side. I felt every stare from my colleagues burning the back of my neck. Outside, as we crossed the road, Sheila said softly, "You've been different lately, and I want to understand why." My steps faltered. I wasn't ready for that conversation. But Sheila looked at me with those calm, searching eyes, eyes that made honesty feel both dangerous and necessary. I exhaled slowly. Maybe it was time to stop running. We reached the restaurant and found a quiet table in the corner. Sheila placed her bag down and settled opposite me, her expression calm but intent. As if she had come with a mission, I tried to distract myself by studying the menu, even though I already knew everything was more expensive than what I usually ate. My stomach tightened. Not because of hunger, but because of the questions I knew were coming. After we ordered, Sheila leaned slightly forward. "Sudi," she said softly, "I wasn't joking. You've changed. You used to talk freely. Now you act like you're walking on glass." I swallowed hard. I didn't mean to. "So why?" She pressed gently. "Did I do something?" I shook my head quickly. "No, never. It's not you." She raised an eyebrow. "Then who?" My throat tightened. This was the moment I had been avoiding. I looked away, focusing on a waiter arranging cutlery at a distant table. Finally, I said, "I just don't want to cross boundaries. You're my boss's daughter. I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard." Sheila exhaled softly, a mix of relief and irritation. "Sudi, I talk to you because you're kind, because you're genuine, not because of who my father is." I looked up, surprised. Her eyes were steady on mine. "And if I choose to sit with you," she continued, "or work with you, it's because I want to, not because of your position or mine." Her honesty disarmed me completely. Before I could respond, the food arrived, breaking the tension. We ate quietly for a moment, each of us lost in thoughts. Then Sheila said something that sent a shock through me. "You know, I like being around you, Sudi." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. She looked down shyly, then added, "I feel comfortable." My heart pounded so loudly I was sure the whole restaurant could hear it. I whispered, I like being around you too." She looked up slowly and smiled. A real, warm smile that reached her eyes. In that instant, something shifted unmistakably between us. Something fragile, something dangerous, something real. For the rest of lunch, the air between us felt different, lighter, warmer, yet charged with something neither of us dared to name. We talked about simple things, favorite foods, school experiences, childhood memories. She said she loved reading mystery novels. I told her about village fireside tales. We laughed easily, and for a moment the world outside that restaurant didn't exist. As we walked back to the office, Sheila slowed her pace. "Sudi, thanks for coming with me," she said. "Thanks for inviting me," I replied. She glanced at me, her eyes soft. "Maybe we can do this again? Another lunch? Or coffee?" My heart flipped. I'd like that. Her smile widened just a little, and that was enough to carry me through the rest of the day. But when we walked into the office building, everything changed. At the entrance, Her father, Mr. Colonzo, stood speaking with some board members. The moment he saw Sheila walking next to me, his eyes narrowed slightly. It wasn't a glare, but it wasn't a friendly look either. It was the kind of look a father gives when he senses something he doesn't fully understand, or approve of. Sheila noticed it too. She straightened up and greeted him politely. "Hi, Dad." He nodded. "Sheila, you're back." His eyes flicked briefly to me, sharp and assessing. "And you? Sudi, right?" "Yes, sir," I said, trying not to sound nervous. He gave a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Good. Carry on." Then he walked inside with the other managers. As Sheila and I headed toward the lifts, she whispered, "Don't mind him. He's always like that." But I did mind. That look from her father warned me of a line I wasn't supposed to cross. As I sat back at my desk, one uncomfortable truth settled heavy in my chest. Getting close to Sheila wasn't just risky. It could cost me everything. My job, my future, my dreams. And yet, when I remembered her smile at lunch, a dangerous thought crept into my mind. Maybe she was worth the risk. The next few days at work were filled with mixed emotions. Sheila and I still talked, but more carefully. She seemed to sense my uneasiness after her father's reaction, and she kept a respectful distance whenever he was around. Still, when it was just the two of us in the HR office, her warmth returned, gentle smiles, soft questions, and the quiet comfort that had drawn me to her in the first place. One afternoon, while I was organizing leave forms, Pamela leaned over to my desk. "Sudi," she whispered, "word spreads fast here. People are talking." I stiffened. "Talking? About what?" "You and her," she said reluctantly. "Some think you're getting too close to the boss's daughter." My stomach tightened. "We're just co-workers." Pamela gave me a sympathetic look. "Be careful. Offices are full of eyes and jealous mouths." Her warning stayed with me long after she went back to her seat. I knew she meant well. In big companies, rumors were sharper than knives, and twice as dangerous. I didn't want Sheila to get dragged into gossip because of me, and I definitely didn't want to lose the job that my entire family depended on. Later that day, Sheila walked into HR holding a stack of documents. "Sudi, could you help me with these reports?" she asked. I nodded, but she immediately noticed my stiffness. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I'm fine," I lied. She tilted her head. "You're lying again." I sighed. "People are talking, Sheila, about us." Her expression softened. "Sudi, I don't care what they say." "But I do," I whispered. "This job is everything I have." She looked at me, her eyes full of something unspoken, something like sadness mixed with understanding. "Sudi, I don't want you to feel scared to be near me." I swallowed hard. "It's not fear of you. It's fear of losing what I've worked for." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I don't want to be a danger to your dreams." Those words pierced straight through me. She wasn't angry, she was hurting too, and in that moment I realized something undeniable. Whatever was growing between us, it was no longer one-sided. For the rest of that afternoon, Sheila kept glancing at me as if trying to read my thoughts. I tried to focus on my work, but every time our eyes met accidentally, something tightened in my chest. It was becoming clear that this connection between us was no longer innocent. It had roots, deep ones, and those roots were beginning to pull at both our worlds. Later, as people began packing up to go home, Sheila approached my desk again. The office was quieter now, with only a few employees still typing or sorting files. She stood beside me, her voice low and calm. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded and followed her out to the small balcony at the end of the corridor. From there, you could see the busy street below. Matatas honking, vendors shouting, people rushing home. Inside the building, everything was neat and polished. Outside, chaos ruled. Somehow, it reflected exactly how I felt. Sheila leaned on the railing, her eyes on the city lights. "I hate that you feel like you have to distance yourself," she said quietly. "I just don't want to ruin things," I replied. Your father's look, the office gossip, all of it scares me. She nodded slowly. I understand my father can be protective. And the office? These people gossip even about the colors of my shoes. That made me laugh softly. She turned to me. Sudi, I don't want to lose our friendship. Her voice cracked slightly on that last word. Neither do I said honestly. But I don't know how to balance it. She looked down at her fingers, twisting them nervously, a rare display of vulnerability from someone usually so composed. What if? She began, then hesitated. What if what? I asked gently. She took a breath. What if we took things slowly? No pressure, no labels, just being honest with each other, on our own terms. My heart pounded, slowly, carefully, together. I didn't know whether it was brave or foolish, but I nodded. Okay, I said softly. Slow is good. She smiled, a warm relief washing over her face. For a moment, it felt like the world shrank to just the two of us. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and the smile disappeared. It's my father, she whispered. She answered, her voice suddenly formal. Yes, Dad. I'm on my way. When she hung up, she forced a small smile. Duty calls. I watched as she walked away, her heels clicking softly down the corridor. The moment she turned the corner, a cold realization settled over me. Taking things slow wouldn't stop what was coming. It would only delay the storm. The next morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual, hoping the quiet office would help me clear my head. But even in the silence, my thoughts refused to settle. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sheila's expression from the balcony, hopeful, frightened, and determined all at once. She wanted us to take things slow, and I had agreed. But deep down, I feared even slow might be too fast in a world where the wrong step could ruin everything. By 9 a.m., the office had filled up, and the usual rhythm of keyboards, printers, and murmured conversations returned. I was halfway through inputting staff data when a sudden tension swept through the room. People straightened in their chairs. Pamela whispered, Ish, the boss is walking around today. Just then, Mr. Colanzo appeared in the HR doorway. He didn't greet anyone. He simply scanned the room, his eyes sharp and calculating. When his gaze landed on me, something unreadable flashed across his face. Curiosity, suspicion, it was impossible to tell. Sudi, he called. My stomach tightened. Yes, sir? Come to my office. My heart dropped into my shoes. My legs felt heavy as I followed him down the corridor. Every step sounded like thunder in my ears. Inside his office, he closed the door behind me, gently but firmly. He walked around his desk and sat down, staring at me for a long moment without speaking. Relax, he finally said. I just want to talk. That did not help me relax. Sudi, he began, folding his hands on the table. I've been observing your work. I nodded, waiting for the verdict. You're disciplined, punctual, focused. You show potential. Relief washed over me, but only for a second. Then he leaned back and added, but I need to ask you something directly. A pause. His eyes sharpened. What exactly is your relationship with my daughter? My breath caught in my throat. I felt the room tilt slightly. I don't understand what you mean, sir, I stammered. He smirked. Don't play innocent with me. Sheila seems unusually comfortable around you, and as her father, I need to know why. I swallowed hard. My mind raced. One wrong answer could destroy everything. One right answer might still be wrong in his eyes. I respect your daughter, I managed. We work together, that's all. He stared at me, unblinking, as if weighing the truth of my words. Finally, he said quietly, Good. Keep it that way. The warning hung heavy in the air. Because, Sudi, he added, his voice low and cold, there are lines you cannot cross. Not in this company. Not with my family. My heart pounded painfully. Yes, sir, I whispered. Good, you may go. I walked out of his office feeling like the walls were closing in around me. As I stepped back into the corridor, shaking slightly, I saw Sheila standing near the corner, watching. Her eyes widened when she saw my face. "Sudi, what happened?" she asked softly. But I couldn't answer. Not yet. Not with the echo of her father's warning still burning in my mind. After our conversation in the boardroom, Sheila and I walked out silently. Nothing had been fully resolved, yet everything had changed. We weren't just two colleagues anymore. We were two people caught between feelings we didn't fully understand and consequences we couldn't afford to ignore. Back at my desk, work seemed blurry. I kept replaying her father's warning, and Sheila's soft words, "I don't want to lose what we have." My chest felt tight, torn between responsibility and desire. Around 3 p.m., as I was sorting staff appraisal files, Sheila sent me a brief message on the internal office chat system. "Meet me at the rooftop after work, please." My heart jumped. I typed a simple reply. "Okay." The rest of the day dragged like a slow movie. Every now and then, I caught Sheila stealing glances at me, but we didn't speak. Even Pamela sensed something. She gave me a concerned look and whispered, "Sudi, whatever storm is coming, prepare yourself." At 5 p.m., the office began to empty. Employees filed out with laughter, bags, and evening plans. I waited until the corridors cleared before heading up to the rooftop. Sheila was already there. She stood near the edge, watching the traffic snarl below, the evening sun painting the sky orange. When she turned, her face was calm, but her eyes carried a storm. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "I had to," I replied. She took a step closer. "I've been thinking about what Dad said, and what you said." She inhaled shakily. "Sudi, this isn't fair on you." I frowned. "Sheila, don't say that. No, listen." Her voice trembled. "My father will fight anything he thinks threatens his plans for me. If he senses something growing between us, he will make your life impossible." I stayed silent. Everything she said was true. She looked down. "I don't want to ruin your career or drag you into a war with my family." Her words felt like needles in my heart. "So what are you saying?" I asked quietly. She swallowed. "I'm saying maybe we need to create some distance, at least until he stops watching you like a hawk." A sharp pain spread through my chest. "But Sheila, we can't pretend forever," I whispered. She looked up, eyes shining with a sadness that hit me deeply. "I know, and that's what scares me." The wind blew softly between us, carrying the weight of choices we weren't ready to make. After a long silence, she said the words that broke me a little. "For now, let's just be careful, please." I nodded slowly, even though everything inside me resisted. "I'll try." She gave a faint, heartbreaking smile. "Thank you." As we walked away in opposite directions, one truth buried itself deeply in my heart. Distance wouldn't kill what was growing between us. It would only make us want it more. The days that followed were some of the strangest I had ever experienced. Sheila and I kept our distance just as she requested, but the distance felt unnatural, forced, and painfully empty. We still exchanged polite greetings in the office, still worked together when necessary, but all the warmth, the unspoken connection, had been pushed underground. Pamela, ever observant, noticed immediately. "You two look like people recovering from a breakup you never admitted to," she whispered one morning. I forced a smile. "It's nothing like that." She raised an eyebrow. "If you say so." But I could tell she didn't believe me. Sheila, on the other hand, pretended everything was fine whenever others were around. She smiled. She handled her tasks perfectly. She walked with confidence. But every time our eyes met, I saw it. The quiet sadness, the silent ache, the longing hidden behind professionalism. One afternoon, while I was organizing employee records, a message popped up on my screen. It wasn't from Sheila, which somehow made my stomach twist. It was from HR Manager Moses, my direct superior. "Sudi, I need to see you in my office." My heart skipped. Had her father complained about me? Had rumors reached the management? I walked to his office, forcing my expression to stay neutral. When I entered, Moses gestured for me to sit. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded. "Sudi, you're a good worker," he began. "You're fast, organized, and you follow instructions." "Thank you, sir." "But," he said, lowering his voice, "there's concern coming from above." My chest tightened. "Concern about what?" He hesitated. "Your closeness with someone in the executive family." The words hit like a punch. "So people are talking?" I asked, my voice low. Moses nodded. "Unfortunately, yes. And when people talk too loudly, the chairman listens." The chairman, Sheila's father. My throat felt dry. "Sir, I haven't done anything wrong." "I know that," he said gently, "but perception is a dangerous thing in this company. It can destroy careers faster than mistakes." I swallowed hard. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he replied slowly, scanning my face, "you need to be careful, very careful." I left his office feeling like the walls were closing in around me. The warning wasn't just from Sheila's father anymore. Now it was from the company itself. As I walked back toward the HR department, I saw Sheila coming down the hallway. She was carrying files, looking completely composed, but the moment she saw my expression, she stopped. "Sudi, what's wrong?" she whispered urgently. I looked at her, the weight of everything pressing down on me. "Your father isn't the only one watching," I said quietly. Her eyes widened, fear flickering across her face. "Sudi, what happened?" I shook my head. "We need to talk. Later." And in that moment, the distance between us, the one we had created to protect each other, suddenly felt like the most dangerous place of all. Sheila and I met later that evening on the rooftop, the place where our honesty always seemed clearest. She walked toward me slowly, her eyes already full of questions and worry. The sunset painted her silhouette in gold, but her expression carried only fear and uncertainty. "Sudi, please tell me what happened," she whispered. I took a deep breath. "Your father isn't the only one watching us now. Management is concerned. They think our closeness could cause problems." Her face tightened. "So now the whole company is policing who I talk to." "It's not your fault," I said gently. "And it's not mine either. People gossip, and in a place like this, gossip becomes danger." She looked down, tears threatening. "I hate that you're suffering because of me." I stepped closer. "I'm not suffering because of you. I'm suffering because of the world around you." She looked up sharply, meeting my eyes. "Sudi, what do you want to do?" she asked, voice trembling. I swallowed hard. "I want you, I want us, but I also want my future, my job, my dignity, and I can't lose everything I've worked for." She nodded slowly, tears welling. "I know. That's why this hurts so much." Silence stretched between us, painful, honest, necessary. Finally, Sheila spoke, her voice steady but heartbroken. "Maybe the reason we're struggling so much is because we're trying to grow something beautiful in a place that won't allow it." My chest tightened. "So what are you saying?" She wiped her eyes gently. "I'm saying, maybe our timing is wrong. Maybe we're right people in the wrong moment." The wind blew between us, cold and sharp. "But listen to me," she whispered, stepping closer. "I don't regret a single moment with you, not one. You reminded me what kindness feels like, what real connection feels like. And you reminded me that I'm worth more than my fears," I said softly. She smiled through her tears. "Then we didn't lose anything. We gained something we'll carry forever." I wanted to hold her. I wanted to tell her I didn't care about risks. But that would be a lie, and we had built this connection on honesty. So instead, I took her hand gently. "Sheila," I said quietly, "maybe someday things will be different. Maybe one day we'll meet again, without the pressure of your father, without the eyes of the company, without the fear that every word is being judged." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "And when that day comes," I continued, "if we're still the same people inside,
Maybe we can try again." She squeezed my hand. "I'd like that." We stood there for a long moment, letting the truth settle in. Then slowly, painfully, we let go of each other's hands. Sheila stepped back, wiping her eyes one last time. "Goodbye for now, Sudi." "Goodbye, Sheila." She walked toward the exit, her steps gentle yet heavy. She didn't look back, because she knew that if she did, neither of us would have the strength to walk away. I stayed on the rooftop long after she left, watching the city lights flicker awake. The world below continued as if nothing had happened, yet inside me, everything had changed. This wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the ending life allowed. And deep down, a quiet truth remained. Some connections don't end. They just pause, waiting for a better time. The end.